We are currently involved in assisting HPD with monitoring the cameras. So over the course of several years, there have been a limited number of cameras that are in the Waikiki substation, and those are on 24 hours a day. The HPD uses our ambassadors in the substation to monitor them from 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. at night, and then this will expand potentially in the future. They are volunteers on behalf of HPD monitoring. However, they are paid employees of the contractor that the WBIDA has a contract with to provide ambassador services. So they are employed and being paid for the time. But the city and county of Honolulu plus HPD sees them as a volunteer in the substation. The ambassadors do a number of different things. They are first and foremost hospitality or aloha ambassadors, so they provide guest and tourist assistance throughout the district, just general hospitality, allowing people to find their way from point A to point B. We call that wayfinding. They can assist people with bus routes or the trolley service, or how do I get to Diamond Head, where is the best time to go to Pearl Harbor, things like that. A lot of the questions that we get from our visitors. And then the ambassadors also are safety patrol. So they are on foot patrol and bicycles on both the streets, sidewalks, and the beach, just to, again, provide some more eyes and ears out there and be almost a first line of defense before HPD may need to get involved. And we're also a very visual deterrent in that we're brightly colored in the polo shirts, fluorescent yellow or green polo shirts, and so then it's a visual key out there that shows the visitors that we're out there and present. There is a select group that is allowed to do that function, the monitoring in the substation. They go through not only background clearances from their employer, but they go through background clearances in addition to that on a higher level with HPDs and the city and county's vetting service as well. They are just adjacent to the front desk area in the substation, so they can readily talk to the HPD officers that are there. And then when the ambassadors are not actively in front of the monitors looking at the camera feeds, then HPD officers are monitoring. Actually, a couple years ago, dating back to 2016, the WBIDA contributed a donation to a camera project, again with HPD and the substation, and that donation enabled HPD to enhance the 10 existing security cameras that were already in place. But as time and technology grows, I mean, you can imagine even from 2016 getting to 2019 now, how much better resolution is and archiving capabilities, etc. So when the opportunity came up and our board was very supportive of let's do something that can help decrease crime in Waikiki, then the discussion of cameras came up, and not just putting back something that was already there, but to put back something better than before. So yes, 360 degree rotation was discussed, and then also the ability to PTZ, they call it, so pan, tilt, and zoom the cameras. So being able to really focus on anything that needed the focused attention of whoever's watching and monitoring. Security cameras have always been on the forefront of our mind as well as our board, mostly because our board is made up of property owners themselves, so hotels, restaurants, retail establishments, and they are also within their own businesses seeing the need for more security cameras as time goes on. So in their own business, with their business hat on, they know that security cameras are a big deterrent, and also on the other side, a good archiving tool to be able to have later if there needs to be any kind of prosecution or looking back at footage. And so then that business experience folded into them sitting on our board and saying, well, that pertains to, my store, let's say, or my hotel, but in a wider sense, it can also pertain to Waikiki in the overall public space and the district. So cameras have been talked about for a number of years. Like I said, the bids contribution to the city dated back to 2016, so it's been many years in the forefront of what should be done, what could be done. There's other things that have been talked about, and those things, some of those things will take legislation or special ordinance or things like that may take time to go through. And so from a tangible kind of perspective, this project was really seen as something that the WBIDA could put funds towards and then see a tangible result out in the district. So the WBIDA, although we don't take exact stances on legislation, that's another entity for the Waikiki district, that there are a number of different things that are still being discussed on the city level and on the state level of how we can make Waikiki safer through laws or ordinances. And we have done not only research on the legal case study side, and there's precedence for the right to tape in public areas for safety and security reasons. Unfortunately, in this world and this day and age now, it's just more prevalent to err on the side of safety and security more than anything else. But aside from, say, legal precedents, there is also other things that have been discussed and put in place for this project. So for instance, the cameras themselves will only sit physically, they are mounted on public property. So it will only reside in public areas. Now they, again, are able to move around and pan and zoom and things like that, but they will only be monitoring, again, the spaces that would be accessed from the public. So in that sense, anybody, like say just a human with their regular eyes would be standing in the same place in theory that a camera would be, and they'd be able to turn around 360 degrees, see the same thing. With cell phones and things nowadays, they'd be able to zoom in to a great extent. So a lot of those same things that are in the public space, the city and county feels is protected under case law. And the monitoring of them, again, is for safety and security. It's not for any kind of targeting or specific ill intent. It would just be for a monitoring purpose. The locations themselves are actually going to go through a public notification process through the city and county. That was talked about a little bit at the public safety conference. The details on that is so that there is ample public notification of each location and opportunity for the public to comment on each of the proposed locations that the city has put out there. Then it's the process that'll go through the city council. So the public will be able to, if they do have a concern about location XYZ, then they can come forward to the city council and state their case, and the location may be reevaluated. There has been proven success in Waikiki with the cameras, whether that is a suspicious activity that might be in process, or it in some occasions has been used for archived footage. There is a lot of communication that transmits between not just our ambassadors to HPD, but our ambassadors to the other ambassadors on the street. And so if they see something a little questionable happening out there, then they can attend to it right away while they're waiting for HPD assistance to get there as well. We have had some instances of things reported to us from our businesses in Waikiki that then they wanted to know if we saw certain activities happening around their businesses that could help their case if they are going to prosecute later, things like that. So it has very much helped, yes. It's kind of like any law enforcement to begin with, is that when heightened, really unfortunate bad things happen, then of course that's going to take your attention and focus. But if that is not happening at the time, then you're able to focus on smaller, lesser, quote unquote, lesser things that are still important, but probably would go a little bit by the wayside if those higher priority things happen. So the monitoring is just whatever is seen at that time is what is focused on. 75,700 to be exact. Yeah, it's an odd dollar amount, but that was the estimate from the city that of the funding that they needed. So the WBIDA is funded out of commercial businesses within the Waikiki district boundary. So anybody that owns, operates a commercial business pays property taxes to the city and county, and then part of their property tax bill to the city and county also includes an assessment, a special assessment for the WBID. And that special assessment, that small portion, then is transmitted over from the city and county after it's collected over to this association. And then we use those funds to do these types of services, the ambassadors, the cleaning, the landscaping, pressure washing, all of those things out in the public area. So much like the services that we do already, like say pressure washing the sidewalk, it's part of the package, shall we say, of what the WBIDA does on behalf of the commercial businesses in Waikiki, because we collect the assessment from them. No safety security project is ever done in that sense, because there's going to be evolving technology in this sense on the equipment side. There's probably going to be, unfortunately, evolving crime in how things are done too. So there may be other projects, whether they are another camera enhancement in quantity or in just better technology down the road, several years down the road, or there may be a different kind of security or safety project that the bid would want to contribute to with the city. It was a joint discussion, because HPD, along with many other city staff and partners, are actually part of the board that run the WBIDA. So the major for District 6 for the Waikiki district actually sits on our board of directors. And not only that, but we meet, staff here meets with HPD monthly to see just back and forth dialogue on what we see happening in the district. They can also give us heads up of what they would like us to look out for in the district. So through all of those multiple conversations, it has been talked about really ever since the 2016 camera project came to be, is what would be the next step going forward. And so we've really focused within the last 12 months to try to formulate this project as it's come out right now. It is a city and County of Honolulu project, so, and of course it is their equipment and their timeline. But what we have been told is there will be at least 10 additional cameras put in by summertime of this year, and then an additional the remaining cameras to bring it up to 40 total will occur within the next 12 months after that. So over the next 2 years, all of those cameras would be online. I think that something on the timeline, just to touch on, is not just is it elongated because it's the camera equipment, but there's also a lot of infrastructure that needs to go in place. So the data lines, the fiber, the electrical lines, everything that needs to make the cameras work in that sense, that's taking time versus just plopping up a camera seems to be, would seem to be straightforward. But a lot of these are going on poles or areas where there's not necessarily infrastructure in place, so they have to run the cables to get that. That also is allowing that timeline is also allowing it to go through the proper public notification procedure that I was talking about earlier, so that the public can comment if there is concerns over vicinities or privacy or things like that. There is a set city council process that it needs to go through. So this will be heard. The city council has a committee that deals with public safety. That's the main one that HPD reports to. And so this will go to that committee. It'll go in the form of a resolution. So then the city council members on that committee can comment or change or amend the resolution as they see fit, and then they would take public comment. These are the meetings that occur every month down at Honolulu Hale, and then they also are broadcast on Olelo. So I would just keep an eye out on the city council calendar for when that is, but look for the public safety committee, because that'll be when it appears. And then when it makes it out of committee, then it'll go to the full council. And if full council then goes back to committee to just round out the process and make sure that there's a minimum of 3 opportunities for the public to voice and submit any testimony. And that testimony could be written as well as verbal, in person at the meetings. Oh, the existing cameras, no, I don't know, because actually that predated. The bid started to get involved, like I said, in 2016, and by that time the cameras were already there. They just were not. Some were not working. Some were just not of very good quality. So that's when the bid got involved to supplement the funding. But how those initial cameras came into place, or even what year, that I'm sorry, I do not know that. Okay. That there is definitely talk out there about all of those, and because like I was saying, this is a city project and it will go through city council approval for each of the locations. It'll be vetted through Corporation Council, which is the city and county's entity for legal advisement, and they very carefully study case law and what is happening in other cities, municipalities, jurisdictions to see how things can be mitigated, better, and lessons learned from other places. I think that there is a possibility that there is growing concern about it, that's already come to the forefront, but the city and county and HPD feel very confident that under their methodology and their monitoring techniques, which I should say that the bid ambassadors are trained by HPD, so we don't take it upon ourselves to become investigators on our own or anything like that. We're definitely not officers of the law, so we only monitor how we are instructed by HPD or the city and county to monitor, or how to even operate the equipment. So they, I think, will be doing more. The city and HPD will be doing more as more of these cameras come about, and I think as concerns come about as well, to try to mitigate some of that. When you think about the physical boundary, Alawai, Kapahulu Ocean, it's a 2-mile stretch at its longest length, and it's only about 3.5 square miles. I mean, it is a very, very small area when you come to think about it. Versus like a Chicago or Seattle, like what you were talking about. Their downtown areas are many, many miles wide. So I think the density of Waikiki makes it a very interesting area, and then the direct blend of residents and businesses in very close quarters to each other, trying to coexist in the concrete jungle of Waikiki. And I think in some areas 50 for this square footage would be ample, and in other areas it's probably not enough. So I think this is definitely a great start, and then HPD will evaluate whether or not there's any greater need of camera coverage within the district. 50 does not definitely mean, we're not under any dreams that it's on every street corner type of thing, and that's not how 50 is not going to go that far in that sense in Waikiki.